What's something you tried once and immediately knew you never wanted to do again? That thing where you are on a big airbag on a lake, and 3 people jump on the other end of the airbag, sending you flying. I know how a football feels during a goal kick. Ah, the blob. Quaaludes. I tried one back in 1981. I was asleep 30 minutes later, slept 14 hours and missed my 8 AM class. Made it to my 10 AM class, then came home and slept 5 more hours, ate dinner, then slept 10 more hours. What a waste. I worked in a recycling plant for a day and would never do it again. The work conditions were vile. It stunk terribly and the working environment was filthy as rubbish from the bell would fall down and pile up. It was also dangerous as machinery was unprotected and left in the open. A friend of mine who had worked in a previous recycling plant got transferred to the company I worked for as her old company got shut down due to a worker getting his head caught in machinery and was decapitated. For example, I didn't make it past one full shift, and so I have such respect for people who do jobs like this for minimal pay for long periods of time. The people who work with garbage so that the rest of us get to lead garbage minimal lives are heroes, and they should be paid like major league athletes. Also, I'm reminded of something I read online years ago. Garbage men and pickup artists should switch names. Me, early 20s, and my brother were super excited to go to one of these trampoline parks. The average age of the people there must have been around 7. We should have expected it. Ended up spending a lot of money for nothing. Jumping was basically impossible. Ironically, with the money we spent for the 2 tickets we could have bought a mid-sized trampoline. I've found that the only way to have a good experience with one of these is to go with 12 plus people and just take over a small section. The attendants helped us out by keeping the kids off the dodgeball court when we, college, were using it. A wedding. Don't get me wrong. My husband and I are still together 10 years later. We had a ton of fun at the wedding. But if the opportunity presented itself again, I wouldn't do it. I'd elope or have something super small. It was so stressful, time consuming, and exhausting, not to mention expensive. And it was over so quickly, and such a blur. Did a skydiving simulator in New Zealand. It only lasted like 3-4 minutes and it was awful, and I'm now 100% confident I never want to go skydiving. Opiates. But because it was way too good, I was like 16 and just went oh. Suddenly I understand why my entire family is riddled with addiction to painkillers. Whoops. I was young and exploring kinks. I thought that I could maybe have a repressed BDSM kink, so I punched myself in the balls during climax. It hurt. I cried. I don't even think I came, and I sure as heck never did it again. Even as a woman, I cannot fathom how abusing a guy's balls can be pleasurable. Those wind tunnels full of promotional money you grab up. 1. It was awkward AF with the entire sales staff staring at me. 2. I felt like an idiot the entire time because I couldn't seem to get hold of anything. 3. Time moves so freaking slow, but fast at the same time. It's such a weird foreign thing, but I did get $75 towards the purchase of my kids' bunk beds. Total sensory overload. Never again. Smoking. I was about 7 years old and on the front porch of my parents' house with my maternal grandmother. Both she and my grandfather smoked Benson and Hedges 100s. Well, I like to light their cigarettes because I could play with their lighters and not get in trouble. So anyway, I lit her cigarette and she asks if I want a puff. I of course said no because I didn't want to get in trouble with my dad. My grandmother assured me that if he said anything that she would take care of it. So she hands me the cigarette and I take a big old drag of it. Well, I about coughed up a lung and haven't touched one since. I think that might have been her plan. I worked at a Taco Bell once for about 30 minutes. After the manager gave me a quick tour of everything, he went into the office or left for the day. IDK. Shortly after, a bunch of dudes working the line got into a food fight with refried beans. It looked and smelled like someone exploded a garbage bag full of baby crap. Since I was new, I knew I'd be the one stuck cleaning up. I said I was going out for a smoke, walked out the back door and never looked back. This is the best thing I've seen on Reddit in a long time. Friends at college tricked me into doing MDMA by putting it in my food. Had a terrible time and lost all my friends at college in one night as I could no longer trust them. Not your friends. Extremely hungry. Haven't eaten in 12 hours. Stopped at a dingy gas station and got some nachos and a chili dog. Rest of the drive home should have only been about an hour long. However, it took me about 3 hours. Why? Explosive shoots. Whatever that chili dog held had awoken a mighty demon in the bowels of my booty. Hell, pulled over on the side of the road 3 times and shat a brown liquid out my ass onto the steaming hot concrete in the middle of summer. The smell was atrocious. On one occasion I screeched to the side of the road like a madman and didn't have the time to run around the other side of my vehicle. Just hopped out and began spraying butt cheese to the horror of passerby as they laid on their horns and screamed at me. Shat myself only 10 minutes from home. Soaked through my pants. Thank God I have leather seats. Last time I ever ate anything at a gas station. He didn't angrily lay down on the horn. He was honking and screaming in support. Finger in the butthole from a rather adventurous MILF back in my early 20s bartending in LA. Wasn't awful, but wasn't all that great either. Just kind of felt like there was a finger in my butt. She wasn't hitting your prostate. You'll know it when it happens, but until then it's just a finger in the pooper. Too many shrooms. I'm glad of the experience, but I would never repeat a dose that high. 3x heavy dose. Thought the shrooms were dud, so finished all of them. These shrooms ain't crap. 10 minutes later. Working in a refrigerated warehouse. I had an interview at an ice cream warehouse and took a short tour of the place. It was winter, so I had a jacket on, but my god, it was way too cold. The interviewer had a light jacket on and was walking around like it was nothing. It was something like 20 below. I was offered a job, and to not look like an idiot, I took it. I got home that night and thought about how much I did not want to work there. I called the HR department and made up some BS about finding another job and how I couldn't take it. It made me feel dirty and itchy and had a similar effect as alcohol in that it lowered my inhibitions, but none of the fun. I only tried it because I was around it a lot and wondered what the fuss was about. The first 30-45 seconds when it hits are alright, but the high itself is garbage. I tried it once in college. Did a bump. Tried watching a basketball game and couldn't keep my eyes open because the TV was too bright and could barely keep my head up. Threw up a few times. Passed out for 6 hours. 2-10 wouldn't do again. Ice skating. Got convinced to go skating with some friends. Fell and dislocated my shoulder badly enough to tear my labrum cartilage and require surgery. Never again will I set foot on one of those frozen heck holes. Yeah, it's definitely a skill best learned when your bones are young and rubbery, and you don't have as far to fall. Smoking a cigarette. Cigars and loose tobacco rollies were enjoyable, but pre-made cigarettes are just freaking nasty. As soon as I put the thing in my mouth I was like, nope, I don't understand how anyone gets into smoking them. As a smoker, cigarettes suck. It seems so easy to not buy a pack once you're hooked, but it is a very hard thing not to buy them. Never start, so you won't have to quit. Splitting a 40-ounce bottle of Smirnoff vodka with a friend. We drank it straight from the bottle and we killed the whole bottle in about 20 minutes. I was young and stupid and had no idea what I was in for. We went to McDonald's to eat, where I couldn't eat because my throat was on fire. I went to the bathroom and threw up everywhere. On the ground, in the sink, in the urinal, in the toilet. There was vomit everywhere. Then we sat outside the MCDs where I ended up lying down on the dirty ground. I threw up on my white shirt so it was fully covered in my vomit. On our walk home, I crapped my pants because I thought I had to fart. When I got home, I tried washing my pants in the bathtub but slipped in and fell down and couldn't get up. I slept there for an hour until my parents started knocking on the door. I took a shower and when I got out, thankfully my parents weren't outside waiting for me. I ran to my room and my mom was sitting on my bed. I was butt naked. I told her to get out and she did. I threw my vomit and crap covered clothes into the closet and closed the door, then went to sleep. You would not believe the kind of morning I had when I woke up. It was quite literally a crap show. Oxycontin. My mum had cancer. She gave it to me for period pains. I knew no better and spent the next hour hurling my guts up. I took a ride on a World War II biplane. Open cockpit. They gave me one of those flying ace leather hats, which, I assume, will stop absolutely nothing from happening. Then the pilot strapped me in with about 1,000,000 straps that can all release when you pull a single level. He said that if I heard him say bail out, that I was to walk on the wing and then jump clear of the aircraft. I begged him not to use any B words so I wouldn't mistake them for bail. The ride was beautiful, though. I said the Hail Mary the whole flight and was motion sick the rest of the day. More like the Bail Mary. I was at Disney and the entire day I kept seeing and smelling these giant turkey legs everyone was eating and it looked delicious. Finally, after hours of craving one, I was able to get one and try it. I immediately hated it because it was a lot drier than I thought it would be, and that's the last thing I want to eat on a hot day in Disney. They shouldn't be dry if they're fresh and cooked properly. I love turkey legs, but the last time I ate one was at Six Flags and it was a huge, literally, dry disappointment. About half of the things my dad offered me, saying, "Here, try this." Examples: beef liver, cow tongue, aged eggs, jalapeno peanut brittle, some kind of green candy that I don't even want to know what was in it. I was kind of a slow learner. Jalapeno peanut brittle sounds kind of good. When I was young, I used to climb everything. One of the first scares I gave my parents was when I was barely crawling and ended up at the top of a ladder. Climbed out of my playpen. Climbed ladder my dad was going to use to change light bulbs. Well, we went on vacation to Colorado, some festival, don't ask me, I was 8, and there was a rock wall. I of course had to climb it. So my dad walks me over and the attendant hooks me up and I start climbing. Well, it was a 30-feet wall, and I was about to learn that this attendant was a douche supreme. I get halfway up and he starts heckling me with things like, "Oh man, I hope this rope doesn't break like the last one," and my personal favorite, "I really hope we don't have to call the ambulance back." That last kid was pretty roughed up. Well, at this point I start crapping my pants in terror. No big though, I can just climb back down, right? Well, douche supreme has other plans. I was on one of those ratcheting pulley things that can have someone at the end hold on. Well, I start trying to climb down and DS decides I need to start going up. So he pulls me up and I lose all grip. At this point my dad, who was talking with my uncle while trying to keep track of 4 other kids, hears me screaming bloody murder, jumps the fence, knocks DS on his butt and helps me down. Ever since then, can't climb anything without major vertigo. I half expected this to be a brand stark shitpost. Was described to me as synthetic coke. It was freaking bath salts. Haven't touched an illicit upper since. Do your research on the drug you're gonna take before you do it, kids. Babysitting my 2 years old nephew for a couple of hours when I was 16, which consisted of constantly making sure the little sucker didn't maim or kill himself, changing a nasty diaper, feeding him, keeping him entertained, making sure he didn't destroy anything. That's when I said to myself, nope, ain't ever going to do this crap again in my life, and firmly established never wanting to be a parent. Well, except to pets. My wife wanted kids until she babysat her cousins 5 days a week, and that was with her grandma there, too. Technically wife was only helping. We bonded over not wanting kids early in our friendship. Haha. And now we're married. Parachuting. Static jump. It was incredible and moving. After I stuck my landing and celebrated, they asked me if I wanted to jump again. I promptly answered no, thank you. I thanked my jump instructor, got in my car and drove away. Good memory though. Okay, now let me say I'm not a picky eater. I will try and usually like most things. I had a second helping of escargot, for God's sake. But when I was 16 I was in Mexico. I was out with several local kids around my age, and they bought a bunch of crickets, like dead ones, to eat. I don't know how they were prepared or anything. All I know is they were literal crickets. The local kids were enjoying them. They offered me some and I turned them down a couple times because I'm an uncultured 16-year-old American girl and I don't want to eat insects. But eventually they talk me into trying them and my adventurous self goes, what the frick, so I eat a few. They're not bad, but I don't like them. By then we have eaten all the crickets we purchased, so I think this whole ordeal is over. The local kids were showing me around and they took me to the Cholula Pyramid, which is super cool and you can still climb up part of it. We start our climb, and all of a sudden I feel sick. I stop, thinking maybe I need some water, but before I can take more than a sip or two, I puke all over the side of a freaking Mayan pyramid. It's safe to say I'll never eat insects of any type again. Coke and Xanax. The coke made me feel like I was obnoxiously talking too much, even though I barely said anything. Xanax took away any empathy I had. I almost punched my friend in the face for literally no reason. Casual sex. Although I feel like it was the person I was with, he was just so dang boring and uninterested in me as a person. I get that we're there to have sex, but you could at least act enthused that I'm there. He was also pretty bad in bed and didn't brush his teeth, so it really turned me off to ever doing it again, unless I find someone really awesome. I took an overnight train trip that I thought would be an adventure. Took me days to get over the misery. I'm okay with trains, just not 24 hours straight. Maybe I'm weird, but I loved the long train trip I took. Sitting in the observation car just seeing all the places you pass was really cool. You see a different side of the country than just cruising down highways. Scrapple. My people may have passed down some genuinely delicious recipes once in a while, like filling, apple butter, Pennsylvania Dutch style chicken pot pie, and fastnachts, but I will never forgive them for foisting scrapple upon the world. It tastes like licking a dirty undercarriage and is made up of whatever they swept off the slaughterhouse floor. Good scrapple is delicious. It's golden, crispy and flavorful and tastes like meat. Caving. I have a lot of things I don't care for, but I wouldn't have said I had phobias until the caving thing. It really sucks because my kids enjoy going through them and I have to sit out in the car while the rest of the family has fun exploring. I'll never ride the big shot on top of the stratosphere again. It's a ride on top of a tall building. I rode it with my sister in 1997. I looked like a sweet little housewife when we got on the thing. There were two college boys sitting to my left. The photograph is hilarious because I'm screaming my head off while thick veins or muscles or something stand out on my neck and arms, which I was using to grip the ride, and the two college boys are dying laughing. What cracked them up? I cursed like a sailor the whole time, screaming unmentionable swear words into the night air like a profane circus barker. I think they found the juxtaposition of what I looked like with what I sounded like to be amusing. State fair rides. Something called the Twister Spider or some crap. I legit thought I was going to die for the entire time it was going. Never again. Eating 35 Benadryl pills for some whack hallucinations. I got all of that and then some. It felt like a 6-hour free trial of advanced schizophrenia. Surfing. My brother-in-law took me last year. It was okay, but I swallowed so much salt water. I can still taste it, and I was sore for a week. It's cool to check it off my bucket list, but have no real desire to do it again. Update. I just found out that my brother-in-law broke his leg surfing. His board hit his leg and gave him 3 hairline fractures. Now I'm certain I don't want to surf again. Downhill skiing. 6 feet 2 inches, age 37, never skied before. My buddy took me to the top of a run without bunny slope time or lessons because I'm a certified ski instructor. Relax, cold, miserable, frustrating. I became one giant bruise. 2 runs was enough and I spent the rest of the day in the lodge with warm cocktails. He spent the rest of the day skiing. I'm sure he was just as relieved as I was. A shot of apple cider vinegar. It was a few years ago when I was obsessed with losing weight. I heard people say just 1 shot a day would help. My throat closed up and I started coughing like crazy. It was almost like a shot of Bacardi 151. Never again. I grew up where there is maybe 1 week of rain a year and the rest of the time it's comfortable to hot. I wanted to experience seasons, so I moved diagonally across country to New England. Yup, I'm good. No need to see a real winter ever again or humidity or the East Coast for that matter. Ha, I'm in Chicago. Whenever I tell people I want to move to San Diego, people say you will miss the seasons. I call bulls. I've had enough seasons to know that I'm perfectly fine with perpetual summer. Pulling an all-nighter. In college I did a full evening study session to catch up from procrastinating all the finals and papers due. Halfway through, as I was 2 Red Bulls deep, it became obvious all this stress was awful. One day when I was 12 and had just started to discover masturbation, I was putting a lot of pressure on my dong whilst masturbating. The more pressure I used, the better it felt, and pressure can sometimes be linked to pain. Without a second thought, I laid my dong on my dresser, reeled my fist back and brought it down as hard as I could. Needless to say, I was done masturbating for a couple of days, and I definitely never want to do that again. I worked in an Amazon fulfillment center for 1 shift. I'm not that desperate for work. On paper it seemed like a good gig. 4-hour shifts. Lots of PTO. Jesus. That was some of the most back-breaking intense crap I ever did. It's like doing a high-intensity workout for 4 hours straight with barely any time to stop and push. Never again. This isn't as extreme as some other people's, but mine is eating smoked oysters. I was raised a super picky eater, and as an adult I'm trying to expand my tastes. I was offered some smoked oysters to sample in this little oceanfront shack in Oregon. Let me tell you, that crap straight up tasted like the smell you get when standing on a fishing dock. Salty old fish combined in an unsavory slime. Now I'm a southern girl raised to be polite at all times, and immediately spitting out food given to you is considered pretty rude, but within about 1 second of that oyster touching my tongue, my face twisted like I just ate a lemon as I projectile spit that slime as far as I could. The poor employees just stared at me shocked, and my dad stood there embarrassed as I shakily wiped the foul spittle from my mouth. 10/10 never will eat smoked oysters, or any oysters for that matter, ever again. Smoking an unfiltered cigarette. I was a 16-year-old girl and asked someone to buy me cigarettes. Well, they bought me Camels Unfiltered like I'm a goddamn 90-year-old farmer. It's like having a cigarette, but you can feel the tar coating your throat and you get tobacco in your mouth. Yak, now it's weird, but I actually prefer the unfiltered cigarettes. INB4 quit smoking. You don't inhale them as deeply or suck down a pack nearly as fast. If I have one with a filter, it feels like I'm sucking on a clogged milkshake straw and getting none of the good stuff. So I consume twice as many and pull twice as hard. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.